Welcome to the Kaur Show. I'm Ranjeet Kaur from the UK, and here with me is my co-host Gurinder Kaur. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
How are you, Penji?
I'm doing well, Penji, and hope it's all good at your end as well.
Yeah, no, it's really good here. Thank you. So today we have a very interesting topic, and it's about intimidation, power, and control. So these topics are selected from feedback that we received from individuals who have emailed us and mentioned their situations. And so with this topic, this taboo subject within our Asian community, where people don't really talk about their emotions or feelings, they tend to hide away. And if they did speak out and had a viewpoint and mentioned this, maybe they would feel shame and feel labeled. So with this type of topic, we would like to talk about this from our own perspective as well and our understanding. So my understanding of this topic is it's like an abusive power and control over another person, like via psychological, it could be physical, it could be sexual, or even financial abuse. And manipulators tend to control their victims, whether it's their partners, siblings, family members, with a range of tactics. There could be like positive methods, praise, flattery, gifts, or even negative punishment like nagging or silent treatment, which is very common, swearing, threats. And then you've also got like another method, which is traumatic, which is more like an explosion of anger or verbal abuse. So that's my understanding of this type of topic. So Benji, what's your understanding of this subject?
I think you have already covered a lot as a great introduction of this topic. And I think certainly this topic itself is an epidemic, and it can impact any individual regardless of their color, their age, and even their culture. So it's prevalent in all societies. But when we look in our particular society, the South Asian community, and even if I specify the Punjabi community as a specific one, the idea or the taboo of power and control is very prevalent, and we see that from a very small age in our families as well. So the person who has the more of the financial control seems to be like controlling, and that's where the power is leading up. And of course, that is impacting the lives of the families, of the individuals, and the generations as well.
Yeah. So today we have two guest speakers as well. And one is David Blyth from Sydney, and where he practices as a mental health social worker at Endeavour Wellness. We also have Jasbir Singh from the Sikh Australian the Support for Family Violence, who has been delivering healthy family relationship programs in Australia for over 10 years. So we would like to welcome our guests onto the show. Thank you very much for coming here and to be able to talk about this type of topic as well. Welcome Jasbir Singh and David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh to all the Sikh listeners, and happy to be here too.
Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you.
Thank you. So David, if we can go straight into this topic, could you tell us a little bit about yourself first and how it's been working in the mental health?
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. Most of my work's been mental health in multilingual communities, community languages over 60 in a local government area, communitarian type of cultures, intergenerational family issues. And so mental health is often affected by power imbalances in relationships. And in patriarchal societies where men are privileged and misuse their power in relationships, often there are mental health consequences not only for the women involved, but also for children as well.
So also just Singh, could you also tell us about yourself and what it's like working in mental health as well?
Not specifically mental health, but we do cover and do create awareness of mental and physical well-being. Now, I'm part of the Sikh Australian Support for Family Violence, which we set up, 5 years ago. And we've been running programs for the past many years. I also drew a lot of experience from myself working as a senior welfare officer for the Sikh community since 1995 in Singapore. And I moved here 10 years ago, and I got a job with Anglicare Victoria, where I'm a senior practitioner, where I run parenting workshops for parents who have kids from 0 to 18. So we get to interact with various cross-cultural parents. And I also run all dads, fathers programs for the Department of Justice, Drug Court, and other institutions and schools. So then the focus came on the Sikh community. There was no such thing happening in the Sikh community because I find that most of our Punjabi or Sikh community do not access the circular programs, services that are available there. In all my years, I seldom see, 1 or 2 Sikhs might pop out in the workshop, but whereas I see other communities, the call communities, the migrant community coming up and participating in all the programs that we deliver. So that's where it got to us that we started getting calls, people having problem. And then we set up this organization called Sikh Australian Support for Family Violence. It was after, as a faith leader, I attended the Challenge Family Violence Program, which was funded by the Department of Justice, to get faith community to talk about family violence within their own community. So from then, one led to another, and today we are running this organization, creating awareness, and our program is called Healthy Family, Healthy Relationship, which I'll give you more detail later. I don't want to be too long now. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. So David, with regards to this topic, can you provide us with a scenario where you've encountered someone who's dealt with being intimidated, controlled, and powerless?
Sure. So let's imagine a couple, and this is a fictional example, no identification. Let's imagine a couple who've been together for 10 or 12 years. They have 2 children. They're from the South Asian communities, and the relationship, from the sense of marriage being an arrangement or a legal contract, was set up, I guess, through the way that the arranged marriage was proceeded upon. In terms of emotional attachment, this couple had previously been in relationships with other people whom they'd felt a deep love for, but when they had together, even they agreed to this arranged marriage, there wasn't this emotional bond. And as things proceeded, the imbalances in the power relationship increased, with the male partner having access to all the income, his wife being restricted financially to the point of economic abuse. She was wanting to expand her work role outside of the home. All parenting was left for her, all house cleaning was left for her, and her husband was also being unfaithful sexually and beginning to drive her into the ground, emotionally, as being useless and being very derogatory towards her, with explosions of rage, so that everyone was afraid. And the intimidation was about apathy. The intimidation was about emotional abuse. The intimidation was about the threat to leave. And another very powerful form of intimidation was to shame her in front of her own parents, who were very critical from the subcontinent, as though she would not be a wife fulfilling her role according to their culture and family tradition. So in seeing that family together, I guess the first strategy was to address the man in the family on his own terms. And I guess with narcissistic people who are very self-focused, they have to realize that the way that they're behaving, the way of control is a zero-sum game. It doesn't yield the benefits that they're seeking. They don't get approval. They don't get emotional affection. They don't get the respect that they crave. And so a series of consultations with him by himself to realize that actually sharing power, of learning to influence the family positively in setting up joint accounts, distributing household chores, participating in the parenting, and feeling that he was had a positive fathering kind of modelling going on with his own children. He began to see the benefits of that for himself and engage in change. But I guess at the emotional level, there was a lot of repair work to do in the relationship to rebuild trust and respect. So that was a sort of one scenario in which the whole sort of very subtle forms of intimidation threatened the future of the relationship completely. But they managed to kind of turn it around over a long period of time.
That sounds good. Thank you so much for that as well.
Yeah. And David, this does seem to...
With regards to how long it took.
Yeah. That was over a process of about 18 months worth of working together. Because if those deep patterns, those negative vicious cycle patterns have been entrenched for 10 or 15 years, you need a lot of time, a lot of intensive work to turn that around. Yeah. Yeah.
It does seem very common scenario that we hear these kind of stories are very prevalent, especially in South Asian families as well. So so maybe I just over this story, Jasbir, if I can have your comment on this one. How many such stories usually come around, like especially if we talk about Sikh or Punjabi community? Is this the common behavior that we see in all these cases? What percentage? Yeah.
Well, I can't give percentages such because there's just so many and they vary in different type of abuses.
Yeah.
We'll be preparing the steps soon on our minor report. But hearing what David say, it sounds very common, which is happening in the South Asian community. And because I also work with other communities, I find that it is happening everywhere. Whether it's whether it's Punjabi, Vietnamese, Indian, everywhere it's the same. Burmese. I work with all the communities, Afghan communities. It's a kind of a human problem, but because of the way they have moved into this country and how the culture in their country of origin before they come here, the transition process has not been helpful to them, and they already have a preconceived idea of what I'm going to do when I go there. And a lot of them have been kind of pre-programmed their brain that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, not taking into consideration that, my wife also will have a role to play, but it's always what the husband wants to do, and the wife just have to back up and just follow through. So it is quite common. If you want me to give you a case study as well right now, let me know. If not, then is there what you want me to give a case study to now?
Yes, please.
All right. I had a case. She has been married for about almost 3.5 to 4 years now. She has one child, and the day she came to Australia, she has been isolated from day one. Not good in speaking English. Her English was very bad. Literacy level very low. Can't read English. Only speaks Punjabi, and the husband has started controlling her from day one. Never let her out of the house. He buys the groceries. Never got her a driving license. She stays home because the child has not gone to kinder anywhere. So all these 2 or 3 years she's been home. The case came to us through her sister in Melbourne, who called us and said, "Can you please, help my sister? She doesn't know what to do. She's stuck." And she only gets to talk to me. And then we found a way that she could call us, and when the husband was at work, and basically she could not go out. Even when she goes to Gurdwara, he'll always be monitoring her at a distance, and he always tell her, "If I see you talking to anyone, you're in trouble." So he's always shadowing her, stalking her. And of course, there was physical abuse. And even when she, whenever the physical abuse happened, it was a bit of bruises fine. When things got bad, he would follow her to the doctor. And of course, as always, pre-warn her, if you tell anything to the doctor, you're going to lose your visa. I will make sure your PR doesn't go through. And you'll lose your children, you'll be sent back to the country. So all these uncertainties and fears, she just kept going and told her doctor, no, I fall, nothing happened. And of course, there's no money she can spend. Everything is controlled by him. She doesn't even know how to use an ATM card. And what happened was, even when she had to bring the child to the MCH, maternal child health nurse, he would go along, make her sit outside, and he would bring the child into the room with the MCH nurse, so that she never gets a chance to be in privacy with the nurse to talk about what's happening. Because I know I work with MCH nurses, they do ask that question sometimes when they see, the mood of the mother is not normal. They would try to pick up those red flags and try to probe into it. So this was very bad situation. And of course, there's always labeling, putting down, you're useless, and your parents didn't give enough dowry. Dowry was also an issue. So that was the case that we had. It's quite confronting, and she felt very, very isolated, nobody to turn to, dare not to ask anyone, because he said, if I find out, somebody knows, you're finished. So that kind of uncertainty and consistent threat and fear is not helpful. So it took us a while to do a lot of empowerment, about, I think, close to 2 months, talking to her over the phone and talking to all the services and arranging, doing warm referrals, talking through, don't worry. Because for a woman to leave the house in a family violence relationship, I mean, statistics already show is 7 attempts are made before she finally decides to leave. Because any woman who wants to leave, she also need to consider her children, where she's going to stay, how she's going to survive. And especially in this situation when they just don't know how to survive in a foreign country.
Yeah. So I think you have put a very common perspective of what is actually the current situation and how women, especially who are victims of family violence, are going through the situation. I'd ask David, what do you think is the main driving force behind this kind of behavior? And is it mostly prevalent in like men doing this to women, or how many cases you usually see the opposite way as well, like men being the victim as well?
Well, I guess in terms of homicide, the rate of in Australia, 50 women are killed every year by their male partners. In terms of it's about 1% of homicide rate for women killing their male partners. Okay, so it's definitely male revenge that seems to be the core, and fear and insecurity. But when it becomes criminal, then you go beyond the emotional considerations. It's for the sake of the safety and the life of the woman and her children that's priority.
Jasbir, anything you would like to add on to this one?
I mean, what David said is a fact. I mean, of course, the present statistics that we have is 1 woman is killed every week in Australia from a male partner, ex-husband, ex-boyfriend. It's a known person. And 5% of the cases are where males are abused. So still 95% of the cases of family violence are done by male perpetrators. So it is definitely a male-dominated domain, if I may say safely. But having said that, not all males are bad.
Yeah, sure. I do understand. And it's fair enough for you to say that all males are not bad. And yes, I do agree that it's not everyone when we talk about, but it's those who are actually doing this to others, regardless whether it's a male or a female or anyone else. I might actually ask the viewers who are watching this show as well, if they would like to share any of their experience. It doesn't have to be themselves because of privacy reasons. Even if they want to share any story of someone they knew, and probably if they have any questions, please do mention that in the comments below. I think that's what is the purpose of this show, so that we can share it with the guests and get the answers for you. So Ranjeet Penji.
Yes, I think my connection's not doing very well today. It keeps on going back and forth, but I hope you can hear me as well properly. So I heard Jasbir Singh's scenario, and it just seemed like fear of life, really. What type of life would you have if you're completely controlled with, you know, everything you do? It just sounds terrible to be in that situation. And if someone is in this type of situation where they've recognized an issue, or maybe it's someone else has seen something, because obviously they probably don't notice it because they're in this deep hole of what's called normal for them, what should they do? If so, going to a doctor could be one thing, coming to your helpline could be another. Where else could they go if they, you know, where else could they go if they needed this type of help? And that's
David, you want to go first? Oh, you want me to ask me? Okay, that's fine. All right.
Okay.
Since the question is directed to me, I'll answer for them. Maybe David can follow through. All right. I mean, it is, again, like I said, if they are really isolated, one thing you can do is talk to your neighbor for a start. Because in this unique case, he was like very controlled. But not every case is like that. Some of them have access, but they fear. Now, the thing is, it's very important to have that kind of cultural connection with the community, because sometimes they don't want to report directly to the police. They want to go to somebody within the community, you know, could be a Gurdwara. So like in Victoria, most of the Gurdwaras, you know, they are aware of what we are doing, the Sikh Australian support for family violence. They know about me. I've run some workshops in the Gurdwara to create awareness. So sometime I do get a referral and somebody say, this lady came here, she needed help, and I gave her your number. So that is also one way that she can do. And the other thing is always look for a safety plan. You know, get all your documents in order, find out what is happening, keep evidence, which is very difficult in that situation. Make sure it's safe, because safety is the most paramount. And we do tell them, and they know they can call. Sometimes they know they can call 000, call the police for help, but they are afraid of the consequences when they report. So for this kind of victim, when we get in touch with them, our first thing is their safety. Then we start to empower them, because I think empowering them is very, very important. When a person feels empowered and informed of what are the services available and what is the referral pathway, what will happen after you report to the police, what will happen if you go to a particular service for certain help, what will happen to your home. You know, they want to know all the nitty-gritty. Will I be able to, you know, have food? Will my husband come after me? They have to think about the safety of the family. I had cases where the man even threatened the wife, if you report, I will injure your, or, you know, put your family in India in danger. So that is all the things that they have to consider. And there are so many kind of threats. So for a woman in this kind of situation, whatever little, I would say, talk to your neighbor, talk to anyone you know, and try to find out the services available. There is 1-800. There's so many you know, other numbers. Our community, just call any Gurdwara and ask them if you are within the Sikh community. And there are many other numbers there. Later we can create a list, or you can come to our website. We'll have the numbers. Most of the website, even you call 000, or you go to the police website, they'll have all the numbers. You call 1-800, they'll have all the different. You can go to In Touch. There's so many services out there. There's men's line, even men who need help. So it's a very tricky situation. I cannot give one answer to fit all. It depends on the situation of the victim. What is the situation the victim is going through? First, we ask her, you know, if you want to report, what's your plan after you report? They will say, you know, will somebody come to my house? Will my husband get the news? Then how do I, because I had one victim, and we told her, you know, beware before you report. And even before the police arrived, she was beaten up again while the police was knocking the door. So there's a lot of uncertainty and fear. So we got to steer this very carefully and sensitively, case by case basis. So strategies, there are so many I can give, but depends on your situation. So talk to neighbor, talk to your doctor, talk to your GP, talk to your community, your friends, whoever you can trust. Very importantly, you can trust. And I think trust is one big thing they fear, that if I tell someone, will someone tell someone, and my husband find out I get into trouble. So it's a very fine path to tread for a victim.
And I just want to ask a question about the sharing that particular kind of situation on that. So I do usually come across these scenarios as well, and I do get some of the context. One of the scenarios that I want to ask is, sometime a victim contacts you and they tell about very, very sad story, what is happening and what they are going through, but they just share with you and they just don't want you to contact back. So that's a very, very hard scenario, because they don't want you to contact back. And secondly, they don't call you back later on. So what do you do in those kind of scenarios? When
I had help, and
you can't contact them.
Yes, I had a few calls like this. One thing about us, what we do is we don't straight away ask you what's your name, because sometimes I have ever had what's your name and they put the phone down. Yeah. So I'll just listen, hello, yes, is there anything I can help you with? And let them talk. Because there have been cases, I don't ask their name until they're ready to say, I say, would you want to let me know what's your name, or anything else? And it takes a while. Sometimes they do call back, and because I leave them, what I will do is I'll tell them, in case, you can't get in touch with me, these are the numbers you can call. I can text you this number. If it's from a private number, I'll just tell them, you can always, go online and ask for family violence help, any help for women. Something will pop out on Google in Victoria. You just Google, you get it very fast. So in this case, we don't, because the minute we try to probe in too much, they get frightened because they're not ready to come out from the shell. So you have to give them some time and confidence. So we let them call. I have helped one, like after 3 months, then she started telling, okay, I'm so-and-so. And took about close to 8 months before she decided that, okay, I think I can now go and make a report. So it's a lot of empowering and assuring that is required. Even if they don't tell the name, that's fine. But you always leave them number, say, okay, I know you might want not to tell me your name, but in case, you don't get to call me back again, these are the numbers you can call. If you want me to text or WhatsApp me, sometimes they use a WhatsApp number, which is an Indian number, because they don't have a local SIM card. So sometimes we WhatsApp them, or we ask them, tell me any number you want me to WhatsApp to, who can later WhatsApp to you or your parents or anyone. So it again depends on the situation. So we don't try to ask them, no, you must tell me your name, give me your date of birth. Then they start to worry. Why are you writing down? Why are you going to report me? That's the first thing they ask, because they're not ready. So the empowering and reassuring part at the very beginning, onset, they need to have someone who listens and believe them. Very importantly, believe what they say. Do not question that. Are you sure this is happening? Then they will feel that, oh, here comes another person, not wanting to believe what's happening to me. So giving them that non-judgmental listening ear and believing them is, I think, very powerful. And then reassuring them that I'm here for you anytime you want to call. We will be here to help you, and you let us know when you want to do what you want to do. We will guide you. So that kind of thing put them kind of in control of their life, of what they want to do. So slowly they are feeling that, oh, suddenly I have a choice. Yes, you have a choice. You tell me what you want to do, and we will guide you. I hope that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. It is
very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. In some of the scenarios,
and David, could also,
yeah.
So you'd like me to think about that with you as well? Yeah, I loved how Jasbir was talking about this whole process of empowerment, of building trust, of gentle encouragement, of providing information. I guess one of the central ideas is allowing the victim to give you permission to talk about things. I think giving permission is part of empowering them. Often, I guess women or men in those situations, even that one conversation can be overwhelming for them. It may be the first time they've ever talked about what's really happening. And if their situation is overwhelming for them, they can even feel overwhelmed. by mentioning actually a tenth of what's going on. So don't be surprised if people withdraw or never contact you again. I guess that the other element is in being the friend that Jasbir was talking about is people just love just feeling an expression of kindness and warmth towards them, which they haven't had. They're living in a dehumanizing environment where they're treated like animals, not treated like human beings. So even any warmth or tone or love or care without judgment is just something new for them. And it'll take them a long time to trust you as a reliable person who won't take sides, who will give them the space to gradually build courage, build hope, build a sense of worth before and as they make a strategy, as an exit strategy.
Yeah.
Thank
that's
you.
very right.
Thanks for that, both of you.
Thank you. I
wanted to ask, Jasbir Singh. Sorry, my connection is very bad today.
Ranjeet, Benji, go for it.
Oh yeah, sorry. Jasbir Singh, I wanted to ask you, with the programs that you have, do you educate schools regarding this type of behavior for prevention? Do you, what age should children learn about this type of behavior? Whether, with schools, do they have this type of programs going on?
Not our organization per se, because in Victoria, there is a Department of Education. Within them, they have their own program, respectful communication and respectful relationship. They are doing it in schools, because I did work with two of the community engagement officers who engaged us, rather engaged me to talk to the teachers and principal about engaging the call community, within the family services. So what are the sensitivities to look for when you're communicating with a migrant? Like even people coming from certain third world countries, even asking them what's your date of birth can be a bit, embarrassing, because they never had a birth certificate, So being very sensitive to their cultural practices, and how you engage them, and how do you portray your poster? What are the kind of pictures you use? What kind of wording and the messaging you put on your posters is how you engage the migrant communities. So on us, where I work with Anglican, that's my job. Yes, we engage schools, but more on parenting. And there we also, if there is a parent who has an issue, we do refer them out to the other services. And we also run another program with Anglican. It's called Beyond the Violence, which is run with mothers who are ex-victim of family violence or no more in the relationship with their children. So that is a separate one. On us, what we are doing now is we are running a healthy family, healthy relationship program, which is to train volunteer community educators. We are now in the process of recruiting them. And once this lockdown is over, we are going to give them a 3 weeks training, where they're going to then carry this training and run within their own respective faith or cultural communities. And in this program, we talk about respectful relationship. We talk about when you migrated to Australia, what were some of the challenges you face as a man, as a woman, or how can you, find those common grounds, and how can you respectfully communicate with each other, and how can you maintain a respectful relationship, and what is basically this word called family violence, which I don't tell them straight away, family violence. I say, this government is talking about family violence. What does it mean to you? It's part of the program. And we get them to come up, this is about beating women. I say, okay, what else is it? So creating the awareness that there are many types of family violence, which we also talk about is spiritual abuse, which not many people talk about. So, like if you don't serve me as your husband, I'm God, I'm like husband is like a God. We have this thing in our Sikhs believe that Pati Parameshwar. What they don't like, Pati means husband, Parameshwar means God. So I had one victim who said, no, she was being regularly abused for 11 years. And she said, no, his pati, she was very religious. Both were initiated, baptized Sikhs, but he was abusing her until the last straw. He did use a kitchen knife on her, but luckily she escaped unharmed. And it took me like almost a month to convince her that, you need to report. This is bad. She said, no, Pati Parameshwar is a godly husband. I said, that Pati Parameshwar referring to God. And she could not believe. She said, no, we cannot divorce. I said, nobody's talking about divorce, talking about your safety. So I told her, draw a line, put Pati, husband one side, put Parameshwar, God the other side. Give me all the good, the etiquettes of God, the characters of God, and then give me a character of your husband. Tell me how many of them, match. And then she realized that, no, hardly got anything good to say about my husband, but I know God is good in many ways. And then we talk about, because in Sikhism, we have this Khalsa Mero Roop Hai Khas, that I wear the 5 Ks. She refused to. It took a lot of work. Then I had to think. She's thinking along the spiritual and religious lines. So I said, hold on. Khalsa Mero Roop Hai Khas. I say, when your husband hits you, abuses you, puts you down, he's not just putting you down, he's putting the Khalsa Roop, the image of Khalsa down. He's doing Beyabati. He's disrespecting the 5 Ks, the Panjakakar that we wear after baptism, after initiation. So I say that way he is discrediting the Khalsa Roop. That opened her mind. Say, oh yeah, this is wrong. I say, yes, this is wrong. So sometimes depends on their mindset where they are at. Is where we need to work to slowly bring them up to realization that this is not normal and this is not right, and no religion sanctions that abuse. So this is something that we work depend on the situation, on the case.
Yeah, you have put a very valid point, Jasbir Virji, and just along that line, I would like to ask, like, even despite all this happening, many women are still living with this family violence. And I think they are still scared, even if they get, okay, what's going to happen in the laws of maybe Australian community as well. They know all the information from legal point of view as well. Still, probably they are maybe worried about their children and what will happen. And I've come across women who have left the place. They have lived outside in a shelter and anywhere, but they feel the life is even worse living in a shelter or somewhere else. So why do you think still women are going back?
Like I said earlier, the statistics shows woman makes 7 attempts before she decides to leave a relationship. And some of the shelters are not culturally friendly. Yeah. I personally not gone to visit them, I'll be honest. But from the victims who have feedback to me, they find that because most of the other victims who are there, they are many cultures. And they find that they don't feel safe, in a sense that some of the things that goes on there, it affects their children, the character of other children. And I don't blame anyone who is there, because everybody is coming from a dysfunctional family, and the children have seen abuse, the wife has seen abuse, so they are also going through their own trauma, their own, whatever PTSD you might call it, but they're going through something, and they find that it is not easy to be there, and they rather not go there. Sometimes even going to a shelter. I had 1 or 2 who went. One survived, she made it through, and then finally got a place of rental. So that is why what we are hoping to look on next is find a place where we can create one shelter for our own community, or a shared community with the Indian community where some form of cultural sensitivities or norms are given to the victims and their children, because it can be a culture shock suddenly getting out of a house which follows certain routine religiously or culturally, and then you go to a certain place where it's just different. So it's not easy. You are right.
Yeah. And especially food as well. I think that's another thing.
Yes, you just got to make do with what you get, and you just cook what you get. And sometimes, I mean, one victim told me, she said she come out on the corridor, and some of the other women, they were smoking, and some of them were drinking, and she said, and they were using vulgarity, and she said, oh, this is not our culture. I felt so out of place. I feel very fearful even talking to them. I say, well, it's a kind of a different Western, Eastern culture. it's a very difficult situation. So I'd say, at least you are safe from your husband, for the meantime, but we'll find some space. And sometimes within our community, I do find some good Samaritans who come forward and open up their house. Of course, that also we got to go and do a check. I know those house, I know there's, it's safe. Then I say, okay, can you house her for a month, 2 months, until we find some ways of going through the services. Like we have ways here who provide lodging, for victims. So again, it's case by case basis. Yeah. So I'm not saying shelters are bad; they are good. But again, culturally, based on the victims' feedback, that's what they tell me.
And so, David, I wanted to ask you something. Thanks for that, Jasbir Singh. Thank you very much.
Right.
David, I wanted to ask you, so what type of courses or programs are offered within your service? Is it like an 8-week course, or is it depending on what type of issue it is?
Yeah, it's all case by case, customized to the presenting issues of the family or the couple. And obviously individual counselling can be very helpful in the long term to give people a sense of worth, to give them a sense that outside of their situation is someone who can be listening to them, who's reliable, who's going to go the long distance with them in the sort of work, I guess, that Jasbir does, the long, patient work. The other thing is that mental health is really important in these situations where you live in an atmosphere of control, of fear, of criticism, of arguments and conflict. Your mental health can go down. You can develop anxiety and depression, even some people with a history of psychosis, or particularly trauma, as was referred to. So it weakens you in that atmosphere if your mental health is compromised. And so we particularly attend to people improving and being able to manage their mental health and physical well-being in order to operate from a position of strength and a position of courage where their fear has been the environment.
And so do you also offer them places if you felt they were unsafe? Would you also offer them shelter or places to go if need be?
It's the interagency work that Jasbir is talking about. He must be amazing, because obviously that's very patient, working together in alliance with a lot of other agencies that people can access gradually over time. And I think the key is to make their emancipation or their gradual empowerment a positive secret, and they build up their internal resources and they build up resources outside with these different agencies until they make a decision whether they're going to temporarily step out of the situation for safety's sake or as another act of legitimate protest.
Thanks, David. And probably I might ask Jasbir ji, so if we talk specifically about Punjabi or the Sikh community, are you seeing a rise in the cases from last few years, or is it like under control?
Find your type of service that you provide. So if they need,
so especially in this COVID pandemic.
Now, even before the pandemic, there has been a gradual increase in our Sikh Punjabi cases in family violence in Victoria. And after this COVID started, there is again the increase there because, but I'm also getting calls for marital disputes, But like what I say, we don't provide counseling. We listen to them. We say, if you want, we can try to help to mediate. If not, we refer you out for counseling. So we do more empowerment and then referring them out to the other services which are available, because we are all volunteers and we don't get paid for doing what we are doing. So that's why we use whatever is already there. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want them to use the services that are out there that can help them. So what we also do is we try to find those services which are culturally friendly and understand, and we just follow up from the back, supporting the client to go through the program. So yes, there has been a slight increase. especially during this COVID-19, because everybody is stressed, and slowly cases are coming out. And it is tough because then there's nowhere, because of the movement restrictions, you can't go anywhere until you don't call a police and get police involved, and then maybe you move out, you feel safe. So they don't want to report yet, but they want, things to happen in a different way. And sometimes they feel that, oh, I don't think so, I can report right now, it's not a good time. And they're just going through that pressure that is going on now with every one of us, just stuck in the home, the whole day, other than just buying groceries and coming home. There's lack of socialization going on, and children being home whole day can create a stress, even in the fathers, in the men, not just the woman, So they are also stressed because they're not used to being home most of the time. And when they are home, they start to pick on the kids and pick on the wife. Why are you doing this? Why are you not doing it that way? So the wife also gets stressed, and she'll say, I wish you go to work, have some peace of mind. So the stresses are there. There is a slight increase we are seeing, but more cases, because not all cases come through us, and the government is yet to, or rather the police yet to come up with some statistics based on what's happening. But what I'm hearing across the board, there is an increase. Soon we will get some stats coming out, maybe when this COVID is down, that how many more are happening, because the government has come up with more campaigns and even on the website and help for victims of family violence during this COVID-19. That's why we are doing these check-in workshops, which we do quite regularly, sometime a fortnight or once a month. And we just check in, ask anybody could join in, just ask how they're doing, and, giving them some tips on resilience, how they can manage their families through this COVID lockdown.
Yeah. And yes, whatever you're telling, I think that's a topic. Everything, each of this keyword is a topic in itself, but that's a good information. I might ask David. So just within all the scenarios that's been driving the family violence issues, we know that most of the people that who are coming from multicultural communities and the CALD communities, they are migrants here, and migration is a very, very much an issue where one partner is actually controlling the others because of their status, and because they feel the other partner is going to be dependent upon them because of that migration status. So how often you come across these kind of cases, and what do you usually is the strategy to deal with that?
Well, I guess it depends on the stage of settlement, because I guess with refugee families, they're surviving survival. They're surviving financially. They're just trying to put food on the table day after day, look after their kids, and so that economic imperative can also be a disguise for controlling the other partner who's also out earning money. And obviously with refugee families who are just basically surviving survival, they're also concerned about their own families back home. They've also got trauma experiences. So there's a lot of factors in those families that are very difficult to manage. But also they show great resilience and great ability to rise above things. So it's about respecting their migration story, their displacement story, the fact that they're part of a diaspora community. They're not well connected with their new communities, and even in their own language communities, there are different stages of settlement where people are more successful, less successful, and only just new arrivals. So they can have an attitude where they can become even more rigid than their sending society that they belong to. And those rules become even more rigid. But in other ways, they can become more flexible and adapt to Western values. So I think that understanding a family's migration story is central, and everyone adapts to it in a different way. And sometimes I think that the power and control issues can be misguided. They can be part of a way of someone trying to cope in a certain way and feeling that the whole responsibility for the family survival is on them, and the way they cope with that stress is in a very unhelpful way. So you have to have empathy for people who are also struggling particularly men in families where they feel that they're very, everything depends on them. So it's a matter of getting everyone's kind of point of view and hoping that people can work together to cope in a more respectful way.
Yeah. Absolutely right, David. You put a valid point on that. And we're just towards the end of the show, and I would just want to one more quick question before we end the show today. Probably just Jasbir, if you can take this scenario. So one of the scenario that's very common, and it's because of the migration issue as well. What's happening is one partner probably is, these days there is a lot of issues of contract marriages as well. And probably when one of the partner, when they are towards their permanent residency, they are actually taking off the second partner off their list of the final application for the residency. Do you consider that also as a dowry abuse? Because one person has used the funding, all the economically finances of one partner, got their permanent residency, and they're kicking them out of their application.
I mean, this, I've been hearing a lot of stories from victims, and they call them islets brides. Yes. So what they get is the girl is very intelligent. This is what I heard, and it got me shocked. They'll pay the girl, said, okay, we will pay for your studies in Australia. You do the IELTS test. Your job is to bring my son across. You know, and there's just like an arrangement that after you got him the PR, you go a separate way, we remarry him someone. And they told me this IELTS, but I was like, what? And so the other thing is they also use the dowry thing, because there are many layers. If I tell you there's so many scenarios, what you mentioned is correct. Most of the time, the minute you see the PR coming through, there is a retention. Either the guy, sometimes the lady will just say and drop the guy and move on. But mostly the guys that I see will then threaten the wife. No, I got a PR now. I don't need you. We should go our different ways. I had actually other plans. But they're all very quiet until the visa is holding them down. So, which is not good, not healthy. Like I said, even before we go this, I find that before they get married, the reason for getting married sometimes is all wrong. They got married for the wrong reason. Why are they getting married? Because I need a visa, I need to go out. Hey, it's your life. You're going to get married to another person. You need to know the person. There's no premarital counseling available in India. Neither here, our Punjabi community don't do that, you know, to find out before marriage. And before you get married, the mother of the girl tells the girl, you know, be careful of your husband. Make sure you listen to him, listen to your father-in-law. You know, one of the lady in my workshop told me when we were small, my parents said, you are girls, the boys, let them play. You are girls, you should give in. Then we grow big. Before we get married, our mother says, you are a girl, you go there, listen to your husband, don't argue with the husband. And once they get married, the husband tells them, you are here now, you're mine, you listen to it. She said, all the way we are put down. So the male dominant thing is kind of already ingrained in them. And some people call it culture, but where our religion, Sikhism, is concerned, there is no place for that. Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji, the founder of the Sikh faith, said, "Sokyo manda akhe jitra jamme rajan." Why do you call her bad? The woman who gave birth to great kings and great saints or great people. Without women, there'll be no men. So woman, Guru has give women equal opportunity. You know, the same woman is also your mother, your sister, your daughter, and also your wife. They are the same. They are the same gender. So coming back to your question, there are many abuses based on visa, based on IELTS test. The minute the visa comes in, there is going to be trouble. And many of them has made use of the dowry. The dowry is you got to pay for my son's education in Australia. I had people even misuse this after they had a child. The husband told the wife, tell your father to send 40,000 Australian dollars to Australia because we need to buy a house after one child. And after that thing was going through, they had a divorce or family violence happened, and we were trying to collect some evidence for her. She was angry. There was no track of the money. But he did very smart. These people are just very smart. He told her, tell your father, bring the cash to my father's house, and his father in India then transfer it to his bank in Australia. So where the record shows, the money came from my father, not from my wife's father. So that way, there's no way to track. So they're very smart to cover their tracks. So I think this abuse is not right because we are dealing with people's life, you know. So getting married beforehand, and the husband is also sometimes told by the mother, oh, be careful, make sure you keep your wife under the thumb, control her. And the other thing I want to say, there's a huge percentage of in-laws interference in couples. In-laws need to let their children live. Leave them alone. I always tell the old folks, the in-laws, I said, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰ ਲਈ ਜਾਂ ਖਰਾਬ ਕਰਤੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਸਣ ਲੈਣ ਦਿਓ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਵਸ ਸਕਦੇ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਸਣ ਲੈਣ ਦਿਓ. In English means you have already lived your life or you have already messed up your life. Don't mess up your children's life. Let them live. You know, you have to let them go and let them decide, where you can support them, but don't support one against the other. So most of the time, I think sometimes 50% or more, I get in-laws interference a lot. Verbal abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, abuse of children, putting it all to the grandparents, not letting them, even when they go to India, the children cannot go to the wife mother house, only stays to the husband father house. I mean, the husband's parents' house. So all these abuses has been misused one way or another, right from coming down. But where our religion is concerned, it is totally against all this, because the same God that exists in men exists in women, exists in children. And is, for us, it's a sin, you know, to abuse someone like that, because God exists in that person. And Guru says, you know, to respect all human beings to start off with. So that's why I challenge within the 6 scriptures. I said, if you want to bow down to the scriptures, please think, do you believe what the scripture says? If not, don't bow down, because you're not believing, you're not following, you're abusing your wife. Where does he say in the scriptures you can abuse your wife? Where Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, treat them equally. So that is the thing that helps me in certain areas. I have that benefit. I'm so proud of my faith in a humble way, and that the Guru backs up what we are talking up to today, the male dominant. And again, like what David said, sometimes the men going through stress, they don't know how to deal with their stress. They're not able to express their emotion, and their emotion then come up into anger. Below the anger, like the little iceberg on the top, below you see a huge block which is unseen, many unresolved issues, and they take it out in anger. So we need to work with the men to help them. I always, I always champion this. I say, yes, the problem is the men. Why don't we work with the men to help to change their behavior, change their attitude, so that, you know, the family can carry on living, things can become better, because there's no stopping the men to go into the second circle of violence if attitudes don't change. After one divorce, they can start another, which I've seen happening. You know, they go to another relationship, the whole circle starts all over again, the cycle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great information. And really speaking, no religion actually teaches anyone to hurt any other person.
No.
So that's a sad state that even religious people are doing these kind of affairs. So it's really sad. We just actually have just crossed our time today.
Okay.
And I think we need more discussion on these topics, especially each topic need a separate discussion, and we can get deeper into that and how the strategies we can tackle down. But just we are limited by the time. So probably just towards the end, if I can ask, I'll start with David. If you could share where people can, how people can contact you, and also if you could also mention about, especially for the men, because we have got some comments as well, that it's not only the women victim, and we do acknowledge that men are also the victim of family violence as well, and it's not always physical. So if you could mention if there is any specific or a different help for male partners.
Yeah, well, in Australia, there's a line called Men's Line, which is really good for men. I think I've sent you the numbers for women suffering from family violence in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia. Our own agency number is up on your screen, 1300 162 271, and I'm really happy to talk to anyone in the western suburbs of Sydney who are dealing with these issues. Yeah.
No, thanks, David. And Jasbir, if you can also mention about your organization and what's the best way to contact you.
My number is 04312031 877 is on the screen below, and you can just Google Sikh Australian Support for Family Violence. We are in the process of upgrading our website. We already have some services there. More services will be indicated there, and we are trying to look for services which are friendly culturally, and
Yes.
also the referral pathway, what will happen. So all that is work in progress. However, there's, like David mentioned, the Australian Men's Line is standard. Across the board, you can contact Men's Line to talk to anyone. If any man got issue, I want to say again, what you mentioned, Panji Gurinder, is correct. It's not always the men. There are women who do the wrong thing in certain relationship. I had 2 men in this last 1.5 months. One was suicidal, and one was being abused. Because he was new here and the wife was here earlier, she started treating him to do all the housework, became like a house servant, and made him work and to pay everything in the house. And she refused, and she told him, if you don't listen to me, I'll just cancel your visa. But he was dependent on her. So that's why I say visa is a very powerful thing people misuse always. And another one, he got everything lost, and again his wife was empowered. He was not English literacy was very low. And I got a referral from one of the Gurdwaras that he's a bit suicidal, spoke to him, calm him down. And he said, no, why is threatening to call the police? I'll get into trouble. I said, no, nothing will happen. If you've not done anything wrong, you don't have to worry. So reassuring him and talking him through. And then, of course, we get him to do meditation, Simran. And he started feeling better. Link him up with a lawyer in Punjabi who spoke to him and explained to him what his rights are. And then he went and do whatever is required legally, and he felt so much better after that. A bit empowered. Just so when we work with the victims, we tell them we are citing the truth. We believe you, but we will follow the truth. And where we can, if you want, let us know. We will try. We are in the business of keeping family together. That's why we are doing prevention. Our whole objective is primary prevention. So we run workshops to create awareness. We are not here to break up families. We are here to keep families together so that they can live happily and healthily, that, the children in the next generation can have a good life in Australia. And because we are living in Australia, we are governed by Australian laws, and Australian laws are very clear. And that is why we want them in our workshop to know what are the laws and not to get in trouble with the laws and to do the right thing. So changing attitudes. That's why we run this 3 weeks program called Healthy Family, Healthy Relationship, where every week we talk about what are some of the challenges they face and what they can do to make a difference. So I would encourage people who are interested, contact us, and especially men. If you find there's nobody out there listening to you, give us a call. We will talk to you in Punjabi. We will try to understand you. Just like we understand the woman, we listen to them, we listen to you. We listen to anyone. And then we will see what is required and we follow through from there. I hope that's helpful. Thank you, Ji.
So thank you, Jasbir. Thanks, David. It was really great, informative session, I believe. And I hope the viewers who've been watching this show, they would have learned some strategies to tackle these issues. So I personally request everyone to come out if you think you are a victim of family violence, and if you see any signals of intimidation, power and control within your family, please come out, speak to someone you trust. There is a lot of help around. So don't just sit back and be watching all your life as a victim. So your life is very precious. So please do not let it go, just like that. So thank you once again by Jasbir Singh Ji, David, and Ranjeet Panji. Ranjeet Panji couldn't participate a lot today because she had a poor connection. But thanks again for being there. And thanks all the viewers. We've been getting a lot of comments, and we hope that our guest would have been able to answer your concerns that you have put up today. So thank you. And if you have any
something?
Yes, please.
I just want to say it, and I think David also would echo the same thing. There is help out there. It's never end of the world. Yes. Whenever a door closed, there's a window always open. God is gracious. God will look after you. Through us, we are working. We are trying our best to help you. We might not be perfect. We do make mistakes, but we are here with a listening ear, with our heart. We want to help you. There are services we will refer you to. Just want you to know you are not alone. And in Gurbani, we say, Gor mere sang sada hai nale. So you're never alone. So please do call us, do call David in Sydney. And in Sydney also, they got Harman Foundation, which is running for the Sikhs. So David can also link you to them. We can also link you to all services around the states. Because in Australia, we are working together, to make everyone, live a safe and healthy and happy life. Thank you.
All good. Thanks once again. And as I said, for the viewers, if you have any other feedback or any thing you would like to ask in relation to this particular episode or any other topics, please visit thekaurshow.com. We have our email hello@thekaurshow.com as well. You can also leave comments on our Facebook page. You can also call us at the numbers that have been given for David, who is in Sydney, and by Jasbir Singh from Melbourne as well. So thank you very much. Hope you all have a good night here in Australia and a good day in UK. So thank you. I'll say Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji Fateh. Thank you, David. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Penji Ranjeet. Thank you, Penji Gurinder. See you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.